lamentation of what is not being done. In this section of the news, every Wednesday around 9:30, we'll be discussing, yes, problems, but solutions. And now to move to the problem, but hopefully we shall find solutions tonight. We are discussing a government tax proposal to tax companies or businesses even when they make losses for 7 years. There's a principle that if you do not make money, you can't pay tax. But maybe government is thinking twice about this one. And tonight we have a couple of experts in studio. Both of them are well known. Charles Ochichi is the Executive Director for Enterprise Uganda.
Yes.
And Ramadan Igobi is a lecturer, but also an analyst, economically speaking.
Thank you.
So let's start with Charles.
Yes.
This tax proposal, is it warranted?
I think if the aim is to try and bring people who are dodging to pay tax, we are trying to use that. I mean, we are trying to use the timeline to get more people to come into that bracket. We are using a wrong formula or a tool. The reality is that this country experiences one of the highest attrition rates of enterprises. And some of those are being created by people who used to be in a particular business, and then they start another business. But that business they have started is just for prestige. In reality, it's making losses. And if I were a government, rather than just saying, you know what, I want to make profits by beginning to tax you, I'd rather say, how do we go and check why many businesses that are started by business people are not making taxes? We are taking what I call the easier route of legislating. Rather than doing that, let's go deep and find out how come somebody is still hanging into an enterprise which is not making returns, and yet he had other options he could have put his money into and made some income. There must be something we could do to this person to make him push this enterprise to profitability, and if it's not profitable, inform him to make a proper decision to relocate his resources.
Okay, we'll come back to the issue later, a little later on the issue of what to do to help businesses, and I know you are in that space. Ramadan,
yes,
there are thieves who are churning themselves over and over, and they're not paying tax. Isn't government justified?
Thank you, Samuel. I think to some extent, of course, this has come over after some years of deliberation. Many of us have been really pushing for some of the changes in the tax law, because definitely some guys have been avoiding tax by always filing, losses. And 7 years is not a short time, but the challenge is going to come on those who are genuinely actually making losses for that period, because it is possible in this, especially our space. We know that the economy, for example, hasn't been doing quite well for the last actually 7 years. Ugandan economy hasn't been growing at the target rate of 6%. So there are those who have been genuinely making losses for that period. But now government is coming in to say, actually, you should either pay some money, or if you feel you shouldn't actually pay any money, then close and go home. I think this is not only in Uganda. In the UK a couple of years ago, they introduced the same debate. In the US, actually, 70% of their companies there were filing losses, and they had also to do the same. And it is now eliciting some response in terms of companies now going to the traditional model of doing business. And I think that model is where companies are longing for high volume in terms of sales instead of high taxes, rather high profits. And I think that model shouldn't be killed. Government should be very careful. Those who are putting together this tax regime should be very, very careful, such that they don't overtax the sales volumes, because once you tax sales revenue and somebody sees no reason even to employ another person, you're going to create some other unwanted, things to come in. But honestly speaking, someone making losses for 7 years, you should really check yourself.
Okay. Yeah. Speaking about maybe ways, let me turn to Charles. Is it possible that a company can declare 7-year losses and the accounts are genuine? We find the problem in the way companies not keeping proper books. Probably are they going to the proper accountants? Is there a problem there? Because then you could be able to detect fraud.
In fact, if I were to look at that policy from a more pragmatic point of view, I would strengthen the investigative arm of URA much more than trying to quickly just say, you know what, let's just charge you 0.5%. Yeah. If you go the 0.5% thing and start getting some income from there, you rest. This fellow should be giving you 33% on profits. But you go this easy route of saying, okay, since you are making losses, I have a law here that entitles me to charge you on your gross sales 0.5%. They will now manipulate the sales. Why don't you fix the real issue? Strengthen the tax body to go and say, okay, you have made these losses 7 years and you're enjoying it and you're not shifting and the opportunities in the economy. Yeah. What is it about? How come you are that magnanimous? So, because 0.5% is tiny. Somebody could probably say, well, I'd rather live with that and continue with my dodging. Fix the real thing. There are companies that are going into partnership with government and they are declaring losses. But they are not allowing government to appoint an independent auditor. Yeah. They are not allowing government to appoint a financial controller. And they are saying, government, you are a 10% shareholder. That company is permanently declaring losses. So if you again went to that one and just said, okay, you are making losses, let's just get a law that charges you on the gross figures. Let's charge you the 0.5%. They will calculate that and just say this is manageable. Then they manipulate the sales. My message is, go for the real solution. If somebody is making losses for 7 years and is still hanging in there, ask him why. Is it because he located his hotel in Karamoja instead of leaving it in Bali? Such a fellow, allow him and keep assisting him. The person has avoided putting his money in a fixed deposit account and has decided to start maybe some airline investment, which airlines take a long time to break even. Please support such fellows. So to me, going the easy route of just saying, okay, since you may be hiding something somewhere, let's just get something small from you, and then you start to, these fellows will still be ahead of you.
And moving on to, for me, the way this policy comes, as Charles said, in the easy route, does that tell us a bigger picture of the economy itself? In that we say, so where else do we touch? I don't want to go to other areas because we are focusing on this particular policy. The easy route, does it show a bigger picture about the economy that we are trying desperately and we could do things differently?
Yeah, of course, you know, this reminds me when Idi Amin expelled the Asians. And one of the reasons he gave was that these Asians used to hide their you know, books of accounts in language because they were keeping 2 books of accounts, one set in Hindu and Gujarati and another one in English. The one in Hindu Gujarati was the true, you know, account of the book, I mean of the business. The one in English usually was understating the value of the business, of course for purposes of avoiding tax. And you know what Amin did? Amin was semi-literate but very, very clever. He went and first of all sent a lot of Ugandans to go to India and study Gujarati and Hindu, and we wanted to first investigate these companies. What are they doing, these Indians whom I can't, you know, well, you know, evaluate. And the guys came and caught them red-handed and used it at the end of the day to close them down. So I'm not saying that now, of course, many Ugandans are doing the same. Definitely now URA is up to the task. But we need to go back and really reanalyze this economy of ours. what is this economy called Ugandan economy? Why is it that we have failed to expand the tax base and we are going on to the same person whom we are taxing again and again to the point of putting him out of business? Because many businesses are failing today. Many businesses are closing. Of course, there are many factors, but tax is one of them. And
you want to tax them more.
And you want to tax them more, even when they are making losses. Because I've told you that much as I support URA and government to tax those that are avoiding, the tax, there are those who are genuinely making losses. Myself, I'm part of a small business which we have been running for quite a number of years, but we can hardly, see money going to us as shareholders, dividend. We are just paying workers and we go home. Now you come and you say you must pay tax, and there is something which Harris is bringing in. What if actually now I find it more logical and strategic for me to declare losses forever, and I just pay that 0.5% or 1%,
and continue,
and I continue doing business. Why don't you go into investing in the infrastructure of URA, in the infrastructure of the economy itself? To me, I think this debate should come back. Why are Ugandans tending today to discuss a lot about there is a big anti-tax ideology amongst the elite. Wherever you go to social media or in our small spaces where we are, Ugandans are saying, why are you overtaxing us?
The few bearing a tax burden.
Not even, some even are not paying, but they're making a lot of noise against tax. To me, I think that we have failed to manage the political economy of taxation, of the tax policy in Uganda. People are saying, we are paying a lot of money, but what is it doing? That means you need to first fix the loopholes, and then you come in and you say, please, we can't, continue this way when our roads are rotting, when the health centers are doing this. Your money you paid last year did ABCD.
So drifting towards apathy. Let me turn to Charles. So 7 years I'm not making money. Sure, I should close.
That's a logical statement, but you need to be able to say, to what extent have I committed myself into this game? If somebody said, I'm going to put up a hotel in Moroto, and you go in there, put the brick and mortar down, you've taken a loan, you're putting everything. But along the way, you are kind of managing, you are coping, you are not hiring the best employees, because you must try to fit within the environment. But as you do that, you are beginning to say, okay, over time, I'm going to build the volumes. And when the volumes come through, I will be the one with the biggest returns, and the rest of the people will be coming because of my story.
You endure through.
Yes. So you are the example for the people coming behind you. But as you are doing that, you are paying the price. Now, by government telling you that, please, I don't want you to make losses for more than 7 years, please. The next things people will be saying, okay, you know what, investing in a hotel in such a location, it takes much longer. Let's go and be crowded in Kampala. There should actually be more incentive for somebody to go to such a place, and one of those would be taxes. But also talking about taxes, I think government should be aware that looking at our current tax regime, by the time you employ people, they are paying pay as you earn. By the time you employ people, there's somewhere VAT you are paying. By the time you consume resources, you are consuming items with the taxes in them. And electricity,
so you will not break even because of that?
No, you are already contributing to tax. The tax you're already making is
indirectly.
So rather than just saying we are concentrating on corporation income tax, you look at the bigger picture. But two, and very importantly, we've never invested as a nation on building entrepreneurs with the credentials to build lasting brands. And that takes appreciation of what it takes to build an entrepreneur. It's not just the infrastructure, it's not just the macroeconomic factors, it's not just access to finance, it's creating the business mindset of an entrepreneur who is saying, what's the opportunity cost of taking this business against this one? What's the opportunity cost of being in this location against this other place? you create this kind of fellows, they create robust businesses.
Yeah.
You may be looking at the short-term benefit of taxing almost everybody now, but in doing that, and you are not investing in building them,
Yeah.
you are losing long-term.
Somebody told me that we have an obsession to meet the GDP to tax ratio.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we're pushing that.
Correct.
And
Correct.
the element of equity and other elements that are involved in taxation are not coming through. We have 1 minute to wind up here. We shall come back to those discussions in depth of how we make entrepreneurs thrive in this country. Rather than your last word, should we pass this tax?
I think this tax needs to be reviewed a bit. To me, I think government should be putting more emphasis in facilitating the economy to recover at this point in time, because the economy is on a recovery trajectory. When you come into tax business, to me, I think we need to ask a question: who has the money? Who has more money in Uganda? I think those taxmen and their policy makers have more money than those they want to tax. Are they paying tax? Are those Ugandans who are in the places of authority with big money moving in their hands, are they paying their due tax? That question needs to be answered. Prebendarism, I wrote about it. It's a tendency where, you know, politicians and their bureaucrats tend to share government money, and they don't even return that money to the circular flow through tax, because for them they can exempt themselves. So we needed to have that conversation.
And we are going to come back again on the link to find out solutions of how can you get those guys who are hiding. They're powerful people, perhaps. They make the policies. Then they don't have the sensitivity sometimes. So I've heard. Thank you so much, Charles and Ramadan.
Thank you
For being a guest on the inaugural edition of the link. And thank you, viewers. We have not had a chance to refer to your social media views, but they're there because we did post, and many of you were kind of vehement against this measure. Perhaps you have a small business. Thank you so much, and join us next Wednesday for another edition of The Link. When we come back from the break, sports will be coming next.
I've been in Uganda for just over 2 years now, and I absolutely love the country. My frustration, though, and nightmare is driving on the roads of Kampala. Because here everybody just swerves right lane to left lane to right lane, driving in the middle of the road.